look to a bigger partner to come and help build these. Now, our record in building infrastructure in our country is terrible. We can't do it in our country. We've been trying to build a parliament building in Afghanistan for over a decade.
This is something I wanted to ask you, Ashok. In terms of what is your reading of the situation with the election coming up? UPA, of course, everyone knows they're getting hit from all sides. And this is something that the BJP was very strong on in the incursion, saying that you have to react strongly. Do you feel, A, in terms of India should have reacted differently, the Indian government? And B, also, is it a smart move with Dr. Manmohan Singh also stressing that we need to first resolve the border issue and then everything else will follow? Is it just he's just talking to the...
I think Manmohan Singh would not have said that if Ladakh had not happened. I think one has to recognize there was this intense internal debate within the government, in sections of the MEA and in the Prime Minister's office, over how to react to Ladakh. There were two very different views, and obviously one view prevailed and led to the Prime Minister politically raising Ladakh and the border issue rather than leaving it to somebody junior. Because if you saw the message which Salman Khurshid conveyed when he went there and said, I didn't raise it, I don't know what happened, let's discuss other things.
Yeah.
It was very different for, if you are not raising it, why is your Prime Minister raising it?
Yeah.
So obviously something happened in between. That is, it's fairly clear that it was a tussle. Coming back to, I don't think there's a border settlement is going to happen in the next 1 year. It's UPA government or no UPA government. Some progress had been actually made in the NDA years as well, to be fair, and there was this broad agreement, without a signed agreement, that settled populations will not be disturbed, and that principle was more or less, I think that's a good principle, that you don't disturb settled populations. As Ambassador Rangachari says, actually both sides have a maximalist position which cannot be sustained, and frankly Indian interlocutors over the years have taken very inconsistent positions. Every new interlocutor takes a slightly different position from the previous one, and some of a sort of settlement we would agree on today was actually offered to us by the Chinese some years ago, or 50 years ago, which we turned down then. But even if you say that the Chinese offered us a status quo position, which they are not offering us, let's understand that. What does that mean? Indian troops are not likely to go in and try and conquer Aksai. It's unrealistic, it's not going to happen. But there is a Chinese design, for lack of a better word, on not on all of Arunachal Pradesh, even though that's the official position, but certainly on Tawang. And the Chinese do feel that they can get a territorial concession, which is a genuinely, I've spoken to diplomats who've spoken to the Chinese, I'm sure the ambassador knows them as well and knows this position as well. They genuinely believe that it is possible to get a territorial concession from India.
There is perhaps one other thing that we need to look at in the context of Ladakh, these mixed messages that are going out. You mentioned very correctly, what the foreign minister said and what the Prime Minister said. If you recall, the first statement that was made at the level of the Prime Minister was that this is a localized
issue.
What is the message you want to convey to your own people? What is the message you want to convey to the Chinese? Then you come around to the point where you say, it is on this basis that we want to have. Now, in 1 month, has India changed its position? Now, I think this is where, before we speak in public, this is something which I would commend to all, particularly those who speak on foreign affairs, is that you must first be clear internally and in your own mind. What is the message you want to send out? And thereafter you speak in public.
But Ashok, there's also a thing that, this minor irritants have been going on for a while now. If you take this stapled visa thing and then refusal of an Indian general to travel to China, what is this? What do you make of this constant needling on the part of the Chinese? And it kind of destabilizes the whole China story in India and gives a very negative, or forms a very negative impression, at least in the media.
No, see, there have been 2-3 things. A, Arunachal, which was a theoretical Chinese claim, has become a more real Chinese claim in the past few years for a whole host of reasons linked to the Tibetan question. Kashmir, frankly, the Chinese seem to change their position, their 50-year-old position or 60-year-old position in the past few years, because they suddenly started seeing or claiming Kashmir was also disputed, which was not their position earlier. The state steered clear of that. More importantly, when it came to the nuclear deal, which was certainly in India's interest and brought us out of sort of almost a sort of a ban or a parda which the world had placed on us. The Chinese fought till the last day. In fact, in Vienna they fought till Saturday morning and then finally walked out while the rest of the NSG voted in our favor. So they have consistently in the past few years sent the message that they are not going to take India's rise. Though I must confess, India's rise is not commensurate to China's rise. China is 4 times our size as an economy. But they are not going to be look at it kindly and allow India to just grow without seeing it as a potential sort of threat or something. And since India has not been a difficult sort of partner or interlocutor or neighbor of China's as far as India is concerned, it certainly has taken Indians by surprise, and especially in the sort of media environment we live in. And given memories of the 62 war go very, very deep in this country, much deeper than they should actually. We've sort of drawn all the wrong lessons. We haven't strengthened our own capacities. We just keep to blame the other outsider. Given all of that, the Chinese have a trust problem in India, not just at the level of government, but at the level of society.
Okay.
Maybe we need to look at these things in a broader historical context. If you look at the history of the last 2,000, 3,000 years, you'll find that any country which becomes economically powerful tends also to become militarily powerful. In the process, and very often for good reasons, that is to protect its interests. And as you grow economically more powerful, then your economic interests also grow, your political interests also grow. It's not in the same way as it used to be in past century of acquisition of territory and so. But in different ways, you want to see that the environment around you is the kind of environment that you want to have. Now, in that case, if there is any divergence, difference, you want to see that that divergent difference resolves itself in a manner which is satisfactory from your own point of view. From the Chinese perspective, they still haven't quite spelled out what they mean in terms of their core interests, although they have broadly defined a term called territorial integrity. Unless you define your territory, how do you define what you consider to be the territorial integrity? So these are all questions that we need to ask ourselves. We should more frankly talk to the Chinese. We should develop that level of conversation in the first place, where we know where we stand with the Chinese, because we can't constantly be playing these kind of guessing games. Why did they come in? And as you said, the minister said, I didn't raise this question, and we still have to do our analysis and so on. We shouldn't have to be in that position. We should have reasonable clarity.
But sir, there's also a silence on this whole Tibetan issue, and despite the great deal of protest, the issue was not brought up politically. So what do you make?
I mean, at least in this visit, in both the speeches, neither the Premier or the PM brought up the Tibet issue, and even the ambassador said it was briefly mentioned. You spoke about the claim to Tawang, which nowadays is becoming stronger. Even the new premier and the new government in China has again reinserted their demand for territorial integrity, as you were saying, sir, which includes Tibet, southern Tibet, which is our Arunachal. So why do you think this time there was silence on it? And
well, again, there are so many different aspects to this. Once you start referring to southern Arunachal as southern Tibet, then ask this question: aren't the Chinese giving us a handle to go back on the entire Tibet question? Because when we said Tibet is an integral part, did we mean Arunachal is also part of Tibet? If we didn't, is it now time using this as a peg to start a completely new discussion on Tibet? From the Chinese point of view, they know that as far as the government of India is concerned, government of India is not in any way responsible for whatever is happening inside. Yes, they can blame India, they can fault India for the fact that Dalai Lama finds a home here and so on, and there is this large Tibetan community. They can blame the Tibetan community for a variety of problems here. And they can also say that this is an obstacle in the relationship between India and China and so on. But what is the locus standi when it comes to the problems within them? That is for them to resolve. And I think increasingly that is the point to be made to the Chinese, that Tibet is really your problem to solve. You have problem as far as Dalai Lama. You call him all kinds of names, terrible names. And then you say, Tawang, birthplace of the Dalai Lama, therefore it's connected with the sentiment of the Tibetans. Surely the living incarnation of the Dalai Lama should be more connected to the sentiments of the people than his birthplace. Is land more important? If land is more important than the religion, then I think the Chinese are missing the point. This is not the way in which they can go about assuaging the sentiments, the feelings of the Tibetans side. And there are, now this question of river waters has come up. River waters again, and there I think again, let me, always good to first of all introspect on our side before we start pointing a finger at others. Look at how we ourselves have dealt with our neighbors when we are upper riparians. If now, for the first time when we feel that we are lower riparians, we want a treatment which is different from what we are willing to give to the lower riparians on our side. Which is why, and there are precedents in the world. You look at the Danube Authority, you look elsewhere, Latin America and so on. Rivers, waters that flow through multiple countries, there are ways in which they can be managed. And they can be mutually beneficial sharing arrangement where everybody gains. If India, now you have a new leader in Pakistan, Nawaz Sharif, will not be quite yet ready for this sort of